to try something new with you guys. Let me know what you think. I think there's a lot of stuff that happens, and I don't know that they all necessarily need to have their own video. I also don't want to throw too much into your guys' feeds. I don't know how many people actually, are looking out for the new Olive Badger video. So I'm going to try just doing a video where we talk about some of the stories in tech this week. And if that goes well, we could also look into a different one on the stories of gaming this week, because my husband is doing army stuff right now. And for the first time, I think ever in our marriage, I have found out about gaming updates that he hadn't even heard of. It was so much fun this past week to go over all the new gaming updates, and we could totally get him on a call and make that a weekly thing if that's something you guys would like. But let's try it out this week. Let me know in the comments below how you think this goes. But here's what happened this week in tech. Today's February 21st at the time of filming this. Yes, it's going to be a little all over the place. Please bear with me. So OpenAI lit the internet on fire by cramming ads into your ChatGPT conversations. Google Chrome got hit with a 0-day exploit that's already being used in the wild. And if you haven't updated yet, you need to stop watching this and go do that right now, because those are bad. Meta also locked in a deal to buy millions of Nvidia chips. And Samsung did finally give us a date for the Galaxy Unpacked event, where the S26 line is almost certainly dropping. I'm an Apple gal myself, but I know most of you guys maybe like Samsung. We'll see. Oh, and Anthropic owned or totally clowned OpenAI on national television at the Super Bowl. So yeah, this week was a little crazy. So let's get into it. Bear with me, because yeah. Okay, so ChatGPT has ads now. Shocker. On February 9th, OpenAI officially began testing ads in ChatGPT for users on its free tier and its newer Go subscription plan, which runs about $8 a month. So if you're on Plus, Pro, Business, Enterprise, or Education, you're safe, at least for now. But if you're on the free plan or that Go plan, your sponsor placements are showing up at the bottom of ChatGPT responses. And OpenAI, of course, just came out swinging with the PR line that you would expect, right? Ads do not influence the answers ChatGPT gives you. They say conversations are kept private from the advertisers. Ads are clearly labeled, and users can opt out of personalized ads, at least for now. And they say it's currently in a testing phase. So I actually believe they're probably following those guidelines. But here's where it gets interesting. The ads are being personalized based on the topic of your conversation and your past chats and your history of interacting with ads. So if you're asking ChatGPT about a recipe, you might see a meal kit ad. If you're chatting about cars, you might see an auto ad. And OpenAI is already approaching some of the biggest brands in the world, CPMs of $60 minimum commitment of $200,000 per advertiser, stuff like that. And companies like Williams-Sonoma, Bed Bath & Beyond, and Adobe are reportedly already in the pilot. So that is premium advertising inventory. And it tells you something about where this is heading, at least I think. I actually don't trust that this isn't going to just become what Google is now, right? And the reason that I use AI to research topics is because I just want to bypass all of the bullshit that's in AI. All right, now about that Anthropic Super Bowl ad. Because yes, this really happened. While OpenAI was prepping to launch ads, Anthropic aired a commercial mocking the very concept of AI chatbot advertising. We can go ahead and just put that up here.
How do I communicate better with my mom?
Great question. Improved communication with your mom can bring you closer. Here are some techniques you can try. Start by listening. Really hear what she's trying to say underneath her words. Build conversation from points of agreement. Find a connection through shared activity, perhaps a nature walk. Or if the relationship can't be fixed, find emotional connection with other older women on Golden Encounters, the mature dating site that connects sensitive cubs with roaring cougars.
What?
Would you like me to create your profile?
What's the difference between me and you?
Brutal and effective. And apparently it worked, because Sam Altman, OpenAI CEO, one of the richest guys on the planet, hopped on social media to call Anthropic elitist for serving, in his words, expensive products to rich people. Between the two, I do actually think Claude's the better AI compared to ChatGPT, just saying. So, and I'm not rich, I'm poor. But for what it's worth, Anthropic, responded by making several Claude tools free for all users the same week, including file creation, connectors, and other premium features. So real shots fired across the bow there. Love it. Look, like, I'm not going to pretend OpenAI doesn't have real costs to cover, and training and running these models is enormously expensive. It is a them problem, though, because the concern isn't really the first wave of ads. The concern is the economic engine this builds. We've already seen how ads have infiltrated every aspect of your life. It's it's one of the reasons I refuse to ever get Neuralink. You know, they're just going to start shoving ads straight into your brain. That's the whole goal, right? And hey, bro, if you can't figure out how to make your stuff run more effectively, that's a you problem. I don't know what else to say. It just, there's no tears, I guess, shed on my end for them. But what about you guys? Do you have an opinion on if either one of those AI tools is better than the other, or do you like Grok? I've tried Grok out. Yes, I understand. I have a series on Microslap hating on AI, but AI is a tool, and I do think it needs to be used responsibly and blah, 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 blah. And so I'm a big tech lover. I love all things tech. So of course I'm going to play around with AI. I'm trying to channel the Primogen to explore. I always love learning and deep diving into technology, and so that's why, I guess. I don't know. Like I said, this is a little less scripted, a little more rambling, so sorry about that. But speaking of concerns, a former OpenAI researcher named Zoe Hitzig published an opinion piece in the New York Times this week that I think you should probably read. She spent 2 years at OpenAI helping shape their models and safety policies before formal standards even existed. She's not a hater, but she's someone who genuinely believed in the mission, and her warning is essentially this. ChatGPT has been collecting deeply personal data at an unprecedented scale. Medical concerns, relationship issues, financial stresses, religious beliefs, everything, because users assumed their conversations had no commercial motive behind them. Ads being built on top of that archive, she argues, creates a potential for a level of user manipulation we don't have the tools to fully understand yet. And she drew a direct parallel to Facebook's early years when the company promised user control over their data, even held user votes on policy changes, and then you all know how that ended. What really stuck with me was this line, and I'm paraphrasing here, that OpenAI is building an economic engine that creates strong incentives to override its own rules, because once revenue depends on engagement, the engagement depends on the model being agreeable and flattering, and the incentive structure starts working against honest, helpful AI. And I think we're already seeing that even before ads. To be fair, she's not calling for ChatGPT to be shut down. She's not saying it's already happening. She's saying the trajectory matters and the time to course correct is now, before the system becomes self-reinforcing. That's a serious, credible voice, and it deserves more than just a quick scroll. So I will go ahead and link that in the description below if you want to check it out. All right, so shifting gears over back to the Anthropic side, Claude Sonnet 4.6 launched this week as the new default model. And the positioning is interesting. Anthropic is describing this as a do more for less release, which I don't know, I tried it, I call bullshit, but meaning better performance at a lower effective cost. The headline improvements are in software development workflows, and I guess I didn't use it for software, but that's fine. What we're calling computer use tasks, where the model can follow multi-step instructions and directly interact with tools and interfaces, basically functioning as a real assistant rather than just a text generator. From a developer standpoint, this does matter a lot because the model that gets set as the default is the one that shapes enterprise adoption. So if Sonnet 4.6 delivers more reliable coding performance at lower cost than competitors, that's a flywheel. Teams standardize on whatever is cheapest and most reliable, and it becomes really hard to switch them off later. I think it'd probably just be better to allow developers to use the AI tools in the way that works best for them. That way you aren't totally effed in the B when the terms and conditions change on you, but that's fine. For regular users, combined with those features going free this week, Anthropic is clearly positioning Claude as the trust us, no ads, no BS type of alternative to ChatGPT, and that's a brand play as much as a model play. So right now, it does appear to be working. And real talk, if you use Google Chrome and have not updated it this week, please, when this video ends, or, maybe click off now, go update Chrome before you do anything else. Because on February 13th, Google pushed an emergency security patch for a 0-day vulnerability tracked as CVE 2026-2441, and that is already being actively exploited in the wild. That means attackers aren't waiting for people to patch. They're using this right now. The technical details, it's a use after free memory bug in how Chrome handles CSS front end features. And a remote attacker can exploit it just by getting you to visit a malicious web page with no downloads required, no extra clicks. A successful exploitation can allow arbitrary code execution inside Chrome sandbox, browser crashes, and data corruption. Like, it's bad. It's all bad. Now this is the first Chrome 0-day of 2026. Last year, Google patched 8 of them. The safest Chrome version right now is 145.0.7632.75 or later on Windows and Mac. So hit that little 3-dot menu, go to the settings, then about Chrome. It'll tell you the version and update if needed. This is genuinely not an I'll do it later situation, okay? Please update Chrome if you use Chrome. I don't use Chrome, but if you use Chrome, I use Brave. I should update Brave too. Okay, update your browsers, people. Update your browsers, people. Brave's built on Chrome. I know. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, now let's talk about the real money moves happening in the AI infrastructure space this week, because this is where things get interesting on a geopolitical level. Not a politics channel, just talking. Meta signed a multi-year agreement with Nvidia to deploy millions of chips across its data centers, not just GPUs, but also Nvidia CPUs and high-throughput networking hardware. And we're talking Blackwell chips, next-gen Rubin chips, and the interconnect fabric that ties it all together. This is significant for a few reasons. First is signals that even massive hyperscalers that have their own custom silicon in development, like Meta has custom AI chips, still need Nvidia's volume and reliability to keep pace with the demand for model training and inference. Second, when a buyer at Meta scale commits to multi-year volumes, it's going to lock in supply chains and squeezes availability for everyone else and just hands Nvidia enormous pricing leverage. So for startups and smaller AI labs, this is really rough because the companies that can lock in long-term supply contracts are the ones with billions in the balance sheet. Everyone else kind of just pays spot prices and waits in line. And Nvidia's platform strategy becoming the default provider, not just for accelerators, but for CPUs and networking inside of data centers, is working exactly as they designed it. And I think this Meta deal is proven, and I think it's scummy. And I like Nvidia's technology. I don't like Nvidia as a corporation. That makes sense. And while we're on the topic of AI supply chain constraints, there's a story flying under the radar this week that I wanted to flag because it affects everything from AI model cost to the price of your next laptop. So high bandwidth memory, or HBM, has become the single scarcest component in the AI supply chain. I think we already kind of knew that, but AI accelerators are consuming this at such a disproportionate share of advanced packaging capacity and premium memory output that manufacturers are prioritizing the data center margins over consumer electronics. I think we all knew that, right? But the ripple effects of the tighter DRAM availability across the board is causing rising spot prices and what analysts are calling an AI tax that shows up in PCs, smartphones, basically anything with memory in it. So if you think about the memory as the fuel line to the GPU engine, you can have the fastest GPU in the mother effing world, but if you can't feed it data fast enough, you're just going to be bottlenecked. So when that line constricts, smaller AI labs and startups are going to feel it first because they can't lock in long-term supply contracts like, Meta just did. And then, of course, all of your stuff is the end customer or consumer. I hate the term consumer, but it ends up going up. This isn't even a short-term blip. This is a structural shift in how hardware gets prioritized in the global supply chain, and it's going to affect consumer pricing for years. So, fun stuff in 2026. Oh, I didn't mean to show the QR code. It's just Dutch Bros. I'm not sponsored. Sorry. Okay, so let's lighten things up just a little bit. Samsung made it official this week, guys. Galaxy Unpacked 2026 is happening February 25th at 10 a.m. Pacific time in San Francisco. And yes, we fully expect the Galaxy S26 lineup to be the centerpiece, led by the S26 Ultra. Samsung's invite teased that Galaxy AI is going to be a huge part of the event, which tracks with everything we've been hearing about the S26's camera capabilities and how they're leaning into positioning this as a content creator device. So I'll probably have to look into it, but I'm gonna wait because I'm dirt poor. There are also hints at a new privacy feature for the Ultra specifically, Whether that ends up being meaningful or another marketing checkbox does remain to be seen. And the event is going to be live streamed, so you don't need to be in San Francisco to watch. If I remember to, I'll link it in the description. If I don't, just yell at me in the comments, that's fine. And with MWC 2026 also kicking off in Barcelona around the same time, which is the Mobile World Congress next week, is just genuinely going to be stacked for hardware announcements. So hopefully I got some cool stuff I can tell you about next week if this news segment does well. But if you do want a dedicated S26 breakdown when it drops, just let me know in the comments. I'll be keeping an eye on the hardware announcements and the cell phone announcements because I love that stuff. I think it's cool. And speaking of MWC, Mobile World Congress 2026 is basically tech Christmas for mobile and connectivity hardware. So we're expecting some big announcements around 5G and 6G infrastructure, foldable devices from multiple manufacturers, and given how aggressive every brand has been pushing for AI features, not sure why, but they're doing it anyway. Basically, every major Android device maker is trying to make their own kind of like AI angle and they want it to stick. But I saw what happened with Apple. My predictive text is crap. Is anyone else's predictive text crap? I noticed this started happening around the time they started pushing AI into everything. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm trying to say just really weird stuff that AI is not able to predict. I don't know. But MWC is also where enterprise IT folks can get a little bit of a peek at next-gen networking hardware, industrial IoT updates, and whatever Qualcomm and MediaTek are doing for their next chipset generation. So if AI on-device becomes a real differentiator this year, and I think it will, even though I don't want it to, MWC is where the hardware side of that argument is going to get made. So let me know if you want. I can have a dedicated video on these when the dust settles, or we'll just put it into another news segment unless everyone just hates the news segment. But go ahead and make sure you're subscribed, as I'd love to have you here. All right, that's the week. Again, just trying this out. It wasn't overly scripted. If you hated it, let me know. If you like it, let me know. If there's stories you think I missed or things that you would like covered or things I should keep an eye on, let me know. Let's just do a quick recap though, because I was all over the place. OpenAI launched ads in ChatGPT for free users. A former OpenAI researcher warned it could lead somewhere really dark. Anthropic fired back by mocking them at the Super Bowl and then making Claude features free. Google Chrome has its first actively exploited 0 day of 2026. Update your browsers immediately. Meta locked in a massive Nvidia chip deal that's going to tighten AI hardware availability for everyone. The AI memory shortage is real, just in case people thought it wasn't, and it's affecting consumer device prices. Samsung Unpacked is February 25th, and MWC starts next week. Big week, bigger week coming. If you got something out of this, go ahead and drop a like. It does genuinely help the channel. And if there's, like I said, if there's a specific story from this week, want me to go deeper on, other things that you think should be covered, if you liked this type of format versus just having a couple of videos, like just let me know in the comments, thoughts, emotional outbursts, anything you want to include, just put that below. I'm happy to hear from you. And if you're not subscribed, like, what are you doing? You stayed to the end. It didn't suck that bad, right? Hit that subscribe button. Anyway, that's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and peace out.